As winter deepened in Los Angeles, the chill seemed to settle between Leslie and me, lingering in the unspoken spaces we once filled with warmth and laughter. Despite all our efforts to bridge the growing distance, the tension persisted, quietly weaving itself into the fabric of our relationship. No matter how many times we talked, no matter how many plans we made, something vital was slipping away. And I could feel it, like sand falling through my fingers, no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. My Capricorn nature, the very traits that had always given me strength, now felt like a burden. The control I sought, the practical, goal-oriented approach I applied to every aspect of my life, had begun to create walls between us. I had always believed that if I worked hard enough, planned well enough, I could secure everything, our future, our happiness. But now, I could see how my relentless focus on the long term had begun to eclipse the present, where Leslie needed me most. One cold evening, after another exhausting day at work, I came home to find Leslie waiting for me. His face was set, frustration and hurt flickering in his eyes. I could tell something was coming, something that I wasn't ready to face. But as much as I wanted to push the conversation aside, I knew we couldn't keep brushing things under the rug. I could feel the weight of his words before he even spoke them. When he finally voiced his feelings, his frustration, his loneliness, it hit me like a wave I hadn't seen coming. My immediate reaction was to defend myself, to remind him of everything I was doing for us, for our future. The audit at work, the endless hours, the stress, it wasn't just for me. And it was for the life we were building together, wasn't it? But even as I said the words, I knew they weren't enough. Leslie needed me now, in the present. He needed my emotional presence, my support. And I had been so consumed by my need for control and stability that I had neglected to give him that. While I was busy securing our future, he was feeling abandoned, adrift in the present. And I had missed it. Worse, I hadn't truly listened. As the argument escalated, frustration boiled over into anger. He said I was emotionally unavailable, too focused on work to see him. I snapped back that he didn't understand how important this was to me, how much I was sacrificing for our future. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't what he needed to hear. The more we spoke, the wider the rift between us became, until finally there were no words left, just silence, thick and heavy. The days that followed were quiet, painfully so. I threw myself deeper into work, hoping that the routines and responsibilities that had always been my sanctuary would soothe the ache I felt inside. But nothing could fill the growing emptiness. The harder I tried to control the situation, the more helpless I felt. My Capricorn tendencies, my need for practicality and order, had once given me a sense of power, but now they felt like chains, keeping me from reaching out to Leslie, from repairing what was broken. Leslie began to drift further away, spending more time out of the apartment, finding solace in his writing and his friends. I could feel him slipping, and I didn't know how to pull him back. Every day, I told myself that tomorrow I'd try harder, be more present, but each day came and went, and the distance between us only grew. Then, one evening, I came home to an empty apartment. The quiet felt different this time, heavier, final. I saw the note on the kitchen table before I even set down my bag. My heart sank as I read Leslie's words, and tears welled in my eyes, blurring the familiar handwriting. He was leaving. He needed space, time to figure things out. I knew deep down that he was right. We were both hurting, and neither of us knew how to fix it anymore. I sat down at the table, the weight of everything crashing over me. How had it come to this? How had I let the most important person in my life slip away? My need for control, my obsession with planning for the future, had blinded me to the cracks forming in the present. I had been so focused on what was to come that I had neglected the here and now, where Leslie had been reaching for me, needing me, and I hadn't been there. In the days that followed, the grief of our separation settled over me like a heavy fog. I went to work, I completed my tasks, but everything felt hollow. The routines that had once brought me comfort now felt empty, mechanical. I missed him, missed the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his presence, the way he had always brought a sense of lightness to my otherwise structured life. Without him, everything felt rigid, cold. I replayed our final conversation over and over in my mind, thinking of all the things I should have said, all the ways I could have been more open, more present. But it was too late. The damage had been done, and my inability to let go of control, to show vulnerability, had cost me the relationship I had once cherished. Months passed, and as winter gave way to spring, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The city bloomed around me, life returning with the changing season. But inside, I still felt a deep ache, a sense of loss that I couldn't shake. I knew I had to move forward, but the path ahead felt uncertain, lonely. My Capricorn nature, the part of me that had always driven me to succeed, now felt like both a blessing and a curse. I was determined to learn from my mistakes, to be better. But the weight of what I had lost would always be with me. The relationship that had once filled me with hope and promise had ended, not because of a lack of love, but because I hadn't known how to nurture it. I had been so focused on securing a future that I had forgotten to live in the present, to show the person I loved that he mattered, here and now. And now, I was left to face the future alone, forever marked by the lessons learned too late. As I stood on the threshold of what came next, I knew I couldn't change the past. But I also knew that moving forward, I had to find a way to balance my need for stability with the vulnerability and emotional presence that love requires. It wasn't enough to plan for a future. I had to be present for the people I wanted to share it with. And so, with the city blooming around me, I stepped forward into the unknown, determined to grow, even as the ache of loss lingered in my heart.